Welcome to the show, where curiosity is welcome, laughter is encouraged, and no topic is too weird to at least politely invite into the room.
That's right. We'll explore fascinating ideas, strange stories, faith-adjacent questions, cultural oddities, and whatever else makes us say, wait, we need to talk about that.
So recently, someone asked Vice President J.D. Vance about this whole explosion of UFO sightings we've been seeing in the news.
Oh, right. Yeah, the quote that kind of broke the internet for a minute there.
Exactly. I mean, it literally stopped people in their tracks.
Yeah.
He said, and this is a direct quote, where you see an alien, I might see an angel or a demon.
Which is just, I mean, what a paradigm shift, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we are doing today. We are taking a deep dive into the architecture behind that exact mind-bending worldview.
Yeah, because we have this really fascinating stack of research in front of us today. We're talking sermons from megachurch pastors, interviews with Christian astrophysicists, and just some really deep theological commentary.
Right. And all these sources, despite coming from different fields, they all argue this singular, highly provocative point. They are saying that the entities piloting these, unidentified aerial phenomena, they aren't extraterrestrial beings from distant planets.
Right.
They are saying they are demonic, interdimensional entities.
And look, because this stack of research bridges UFOs, politics, and, well, ancient theology, it's inherently provocative. I mean, it just is.
Oh, absolutely.
So we need to be crystal clear right up front. Our job today is not to validate this theology. We aren't taking a side or trying to convert anyone.
Right. No, we're just impartial observers here.
Exactly. Our goal is strictly analytical. We want to map out the architecture of this argument because whether you agree with it or not, this specific framework is fundamentally shaping how millions of people are viewing this whole push for government disclosure right now.
Yeah, the thinkers in our research have constructed this incredibly intricate argument that connects modern, high-tech UFO sightings directly to ancient biblical texts. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the supernatural argument, we actually have to start with, hard science.
Yeah, which is kind of the most surprising part of this whole theory, honestly.
Right. Because before these thinkers even touch theology, they build a case strictly on physics to establish why the idea of literal biological space aliens simply doesn't hold up under scrutiny.
Yeah, and this is where Dr. Hugh Ross comes in. He's an astrophysicist who writes a lot about this, and he provides this really crucial starting point.
Which is what exactly?
Well, he acknowledges right out of the gate that about 99% of UFO sightings are easily dismissed. I mean, you are looking at natural atmospheric phenomena, weather balloons, civilian drones, or maybe highly classified military tech.
Right, the stuff that's just misidentified.
Exactly. But the entire argument hinges on that 1% residual. Those are the cases that leave trained military pilots and these super advanced radar systems completely baffled.
Yeah, and those 1% cases completely shatter our understanding of how the physical universe actually works. I mean, Dr. Ross points out that observers and multiple independent tracking systems are recording these objects traveling at unimaginable speeds. We're talking sometimes up to 25,000 miles per hour through our atmosphere.
Which is just staggering.
Right. But here is the paradox, and this is the physics problem. They execute these maneuvers without producing a sonic boom.
Which, according to our laws of physics, shouldn't be possible. I mean, any physical mass-bearing object moving that fast through Earth's atmosphere has to displace air.
And displacing that much air creates a shockwave.
Exactly. It inevitably creates a massive shockwave. It's just an unavoidable law of fluid dynamics. You can't cheat it.
Yeah.
And beyond the missing sonic booms, these objects, they don't leave a heat friction trail either.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but here's where it gets really weird. Dr. Ross points out thousands of documented cases where these phenomena appear to physically crash into the Earth.
Right.
So investigators, they arrive at the site and they find a literal crater in the ground. Or if there is snow, it's completely melted away. The surrounding vegetation is scorched or, physically damaged.
So something hit the ground.
Right. Some kind of genuine energy interacted with the terrestrial environment. But as investigators excavate the crater, they never find any physical debris.
Nothing.
Nothing. No exotic metals, no artifacts, absolutely nothing.
See, that creates a massive logical hurdle.
Yeah.
Because if a physical craft crashed, you would find pieces of the fuselage.
But if these are just, interdimensional spirits, How are they denting the Earth and melting snow? I mean, are they manifesting a physical shell temporarily?
That's the theory, yeah.
Yeah.
It posits that these are localized energy manifestations rather than nuts and bolts machines.
Okay, I think I see where this is going.
Yeah, so these interdimensional beings, according to the sources, they can manipulate matter or discharge intense electromagnetic energy into our physical realm. That energy interacts with the environment, scorching earth or melting snow. But when the manifestation ends, there is no physical hardware left behind to recover.
Okay, so it's less like a car crashing into a brick wall and leaving a bumper behind, and more like, say, a lightning strike.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right, because lightning burns the tree, it leaves a massive physical mark, but you can't sweep up pieces of the lightning afterward.
That makes total sense within this framework. But hang on. How does this worldview reconcile with government whistleblowers? Like, you have guys like David Grush, who recently testified under oath before Congress, saying that the U.S. government has actually recovered biologics and actual spacecraft.
Right, the biological argument. Well, Dr. Ross tackles this by looking at the sheer hostility of interstellar space.
Yeah.
He argues that the concept of a biological being traveling across light years is just practically impossible because of the hazards of the journey. I mean, space is saturated with deadly radiation, protons, microscopic debris.
It's not just an empty vacuum.
Far from it. If a craft is traveling at even a fraction of the speed of light, colliding with a single speck of space dust yields the kinetic energy of a massive bomb.
Wow. So driving a 30-foot metal saucer through a light year of space debris at that velocity is basically like trying to fire a glass bullet through an active volcano and expecting it to come out the other side without a scratch.
Yeah.
It just physically shatters the fundamental rules of our universe.
Exactly. To protect biological inhabitants over the thousands of years required to reach Earth, the sources argue that a civilization would need to engineer a generation ship roughly the size of our moon.
The size of the moon.
Yeah, because you would need immense mass for radiation shielding, artificial gravity, and centuries of sustenance. You certainly aren't accomplishing that in a small, sleek disk.
No, definitely not.
And beyond the physics of travel, the research cites data from Dr. Danny Faulkner regarding the SETI project.
Right, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yeah. So they utilize this massive Arecibo radio dish in Puerto Rico, and they've been continuously listening to over 6,000 extrasolar planets. They have processed unimaginable terabytes of data over decades, and the result is exactly zero signals.
Which is the great paradox of modern astronomy, isn't it? I mean, we have the most sensitive listening equipment in human history pointed at thousands of candidate planets. We are capturing mountains of data, and the silence isn't just disappointing. It mathematically contradicts the probability of life.
It does.
And it is this exact physical impossibility, the lack of radio signals, the violation of atmospheric physics, the impossibility of interstellar travel, that actually drives these thinkers to look entirely outside our physical dimensions.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how the language of government officials is actually beginning to mirror the language of these theologians.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, following a recent congressional hearing, Representative Anna Paulina Luna explicitly avoided using the term alien.
Wait, she did?
Yeah, she chose instead to call them interdimensional beings.
Oh, wow. That is a huge distinction.
It is. And in biblical cosmology, this concept really isn't new at all. The ancient texts describe God creating an unseen realm that exists parallel to our physical seen realm.
Right.
So beings like angels and demons, they operate natively in that unseen dimension, but they have the capacity to interact with ours.
It's almost like an ant trying to comprehend a human tapping on the glass of a two-dimensional ant farm.
Yeah, exactly.
The ant only sees a sudden, fleshy cylinder appear out of nowhere and then vanish. It violates all the ant's laws of physics. But to the human, it's just a simple act of reaching across a dimensional barrier.
That's a perfect analogy. And astronomer David Rives builds on this dimensional crossover by pointing out a really interesting historical pattern. He says the phenomenon perfectly mimics the prevailing pop culture of whatever era it happens in.
Wait, it mimics pop culture?
Yeah, think about it. Centuries ago, people didn't report encounters with metallic flying saucers or gray aliens with large black eyes.
No, they didn't.
When individuals back then experienced unexplainable supernatural encounters, they described seeing fairies, trolls, goblins, or leprechauns.
Oh, that's wild.
Right. But today, humanity has spent the last 100 years being deeply conditioned by Star Trek, Star Wars, and just a massive influx of sci-fi literature. So today, the phenomenon presents itself as space aliens. The sources argue the underlying entities haven't changed their nature. They have only updated their disguises to match our expectations.
So it's like a cosmic mirror.
Yes, exactly.
These entities are just reflecting our current technological obsessions back at us to gain our trust. I mean, we desperately want to believe in an advanced sci-fi universe, so they provide a tailored sci-fi presentation.
And prominent Christian figures have actually documented this overlap for decades. Like back in 1975, Billy Graham observed this mimicry. He stated, "I do not believe in angels because UFOs are astonishingly angel-like in some of their reported appearances. I believe in angels because the Bible says there are angels."
So he saw the connection even back then.
He did. He recognized that modern UFO encounters were simply spiritual encounters being viewed through a secular technological lens. And this goes back even further. Charles Spurgeon, the famous preacher from the 1890s, he touched on the cosmology of other worlds too.
What did he think about it?
Well, Spurgeon wasn't fundamentally opposed to the idea of extraterrestrial life. He believed God's creation was vast enough to encompass countless inhabited planets. But he made this profound theological point, arguing that if those alien civilizations did exist, they would marvel most at seeing a forgiven sinner, keeping humanity at the absolute center of the redemptive story.
That's an interesting perspective. But modern thinkers in this specific camp tend to lean away from Spurgeon's openness to literal aliens. Right?
Yeah, very much so.
They take the stance that if these beings are interdimensional spirits actively mimicking our culture, we must evaluate them based on their actions and their interactions with humanity. So what does this all mean?
That is the big question.
Yeah. If these beings are just spiritual entities playing dress-up in high-tech saucers, what is their ultimate endgame? Are they benevolent guides or something else?
Well, when you strip away the sleek sci-fi gloss, the reality of close encounters and alien abductions is incredibly grim. The research unanimously points to a deeply malevolent agenda here.
Malevolent?
Yeah. People claiming abduction consistently report being taken entirely against their will, paralyzed, and enduring severe psychological and physical trauma.
It's basically assault.
It is. And crucially, a massive percentage of these reports involve victims being subjected to invasive reproductive procedures and DNA testing.
Which is terrifying.
And this is also where the research incorporates the phenomenon of cattle mutilations, where livestock are found surgically mutilated and completely drained of blood.
Right. I mean, the obsession with human genetics and blood is just horrifying. But how does a theological framework explain advanced genetic testing? I mean, why would demons care about DNA?
So the theologians in our research connect this bizarre obsession directly back to the book of Genesis, specifically Genesis chapter 6 and the period known as the days of Noah.
Okay, Genesis 6. Remind me what happens there.
Genesis 6 is the absolute cornerstone of their argument regarding the motive behind abductions. The text describes fallen angels, they're referred to as the sons of God, who descended and physically manipulated human DNA by interbreeding with human women.
Yeah, and this illicit union created a hybrid race known as the Nephilim. They are described in ancient texts as giants, sometimes possessing genetic anomalies like 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Right, the giants.
So the theological argument posits that this ancient demonic obsession with corrupting the human genome, essentially polluting the image of God, it never actually stopped.
It just rebranded itself.
Exactly. Today, they argue that exact same genetic interference continues under the modern guise of alien science and reproductive harvesting.
I mean, it is an incredibly cohesive theory once you accept that foundational premise.
It really is. And Dr. Ross and several other researchers add another massive layer of evidence regarding who is actually being targeted by these beings.
I mean, is there a pattern?
A huge pattern. They track a direct, undeniable correlation between UFO encounters and occult activity.
Wait, really?
Yes. They argue that these encounters disproportionately happen to individuals who are already deeply involved in occult practices, or they occur in geographic areas with historically high levels of occult rituals. Wow. So it's not random.
No, the mechanism here is the concept of opening spiritual doors. Engaging in occult practices is viewed as an invitation. Once that dimensional door is open, these entities have the legal spiritual right, so to speak, to walk through and interact with the physical world.
That makes sense within the theology.
But perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence cited across all these sources, I mean, the absolute smoking gun for this worldview, is the specific methodology required to stop an abduction in progress.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah, researchers who compile abduction data have found a glaring pattern that secular UFO organizations routinely ignore or, well, suppress. They found that horrific abduction experiences instantly stop when the victim verbally invokes the name of Jesus Christ, or even internally begins reciting a Christian prayer or hymn.
That is such a jarring detail. I mean, think about it. An entity capable of bending the laws of physics, mastering interstellar travel, and paralyzing a human being, suddenly being repelled by a first-century religious invocation. That completely short-circuits the biological alien theory. Because if you are an advanced scientist from the Andromeda Galaxy, you wouldn't care if a human said the name of a carpenter from Nazareth.
Not at all.
But if you are a demonic entity, terrified of divine authority, fleeing at that name makes perfect sense.
It reveals the true nature of the entity behind the mask. Furthermore, the research heavily scrutinizes the actual messages these aliens channel to humans during these encounters.
Because they do talk to them, right?
Oh yeah, they aren't just conducting medical tests, they are actively preaching. They often dictate massive volumes of text to human conduits.
Yes, the channeled texts. Like the Urantia book, which is this massive 4,000-page tome, and the methodology behind how these books are written is just wild.
It really is.
The human author goes into a deep trance state, a process known as automatic writing, where they claim their physical hand is literally hijacked by a celestial being to furiously write out these messages.
And when you analyze the content of the Urantia book and similar channeled texts, the theology is always explicitly anti-Christ.
In what way?
Well, the entities will claim that Jesus was merely a highly evolved alien from another sector of the galaxy, or perhaps just a very enlightened human teacher, but they aggressively deny his divinity. Instead, they push humanity toward a New Age philosophy. They advocate for a one-world government and a unified global religion. They promise that if humanity simply unites under their superior cosmic guidance, we can save the planet from environmental collapse and nuclear annihilation.
Wow. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can really see the ultimate strategy forming here. We're moving from the micro level of personal attacks like abductions and genetic manipulation to a macro global endgame.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the research argues that the current massive push for government disclosure, the leaked Pentagon videos, and the congressional hearings, all of it is unknowingly laying the groundwork for a massive end times deception.
A deception? Like what?
The grand climax of this worldview involves Satan setting the stage to explain away the rapture.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So in Christian theology, the rapture is an imminent future event where millions of believers will suddenly, in the blink of an eye, vanish from the earth to meet Christ. The research points out that while Satan is not omniscient, he doesn't know the exact day or hour this will happen, he is a student of biblical prophecy. He knows the event is inevitable.
And when it happens, people are going to freak out.
Exactly. When millions of people instantaneously disappear, the remaining human population is going to experience unprecedented panic. Many might realize the biblical prophecies were accurate and actually turn to God. So to prevent a mass spiritual awakening, the demonic realm needs an airtight secular cover story.
They need an alibi that the modern secular world will readily accept without turning to the Bible.
Precisely.
And the research brings in these chilling quotes from New Age channel books to prove this narrative is already being aggressively seeded into our culture. Like, there is this deeply unsettling book called Project World Evacuation, which was purportedly channeled by an extraterrestrial collective calling themselves the Ashtar Command.
Yes, the Ashtar Command. And the specific vocabulary they use in these channeled texts is striking. These supposed alien entities literally promise humanity that a great global evacuation of souls will soon happen.
Just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and they explicitly state it will occur in the twinkling of an eye. Which, by the way, is the exact phrasing the Apostle Paul uses in the New Testament to describe the rapture.
That cannot be a coincidence.
Right. The aliens claim they will use levitation beams to bring selected people up to small scout ships, which will then taxi them to massive, cloaked motherships waiting in the upper atmosphere.
They are actively pre-bunking the rapture.
They really are.
They are providing a sci-fi explanation for a biblical event before it even happens.
Right.
And the rationale they give for who gets taken and who stays behind is incredibly dark, isn't it?
Extremely dark.
Yeah.
These New Age texts claim that the Earth is currently going through a painful cleansing process to raise its frequency and move into a higher fourth dimensional state of existence. And they describe rigid, dogmatic people. which the theologians in our research interpret directly as Bible-believing Christians as a cancer or a low-frequency vibration that is holding the planet back.
A cancer? Wow.
Yeah. The narrative the aliens are methodically pushing is that this low-frequency cancer must be surgically removed from the planet so the rest of humanity can finally evolve into divine beings.
That is chilling.
So by seeding the culture with UFO lore right now through blockbuster movies, credible government disclosures, and sympathetic abductee testimonies, they are providing a perfectly secular, technologically plausible explanation.
So when it happens.
Exactly. When the rapture finally happens, the secular world won't look at the empty clothes and say, God took them. They will say, the Ashtar Command finally evacuated the unevolved, dogmatic humans so our planet can reach its next stage of spiritual evolution.
It's an absolute masterclass in psychological preparation. And the research ties this incredibly elaborate setup directly to the book of 2 Thessalonians in the New Testament, right? Yeah.
Yes, it does. That passage warns that during the end times, God will allow a powerful delusion to fall upon the earth, specifically so that people who refuse to love the truth will believe a lie.
And the powerful delusion isn't just some magical spell cast over humanity.
No, not at all. It is a carefully constructed, highly advanced, technologically plausible lie. It weaponizes our modern belief in science, our fascination with space exploration, and our desperate hope for extraterrestrial saviors directly against us.
You know, stepping back from all of this, from the Nephilim DNA, the Ashtar Command, and the physics of the Arecibo dish, this deep dive illustrates something incredibly profound about human nature.
What's that?
It shows how completely your underlying worldview shapes the very fabric of your reality. I mean, it is confirmation bias playing out on a cosmic scale.
It really is, because where a secular astronomer looks at an unexplained glowing orb in the night sky and sees an evolutionary marvel from a distant star system, a theologian looks at that exact same orb and sees an active spiritual war raging in the unseen realm. It demands that you examine the specific lens through which you process the daily news. I mean, when the Pentagon declassifies a new piece of gun camera footage showing an object defying gravity, what are you actually seeing?
We process the unknown through the stories we already believe to be true.
Exactly. Which leaves you with one final, perhaps unsettling thought to mull over. For decades, modern society has comfortably patted itself on the back, dismissing the ancient world as primitive and superstitious.
Sure, we think we're so advanced.
Right. We scoff at our ancestors for believing the skies were filled with invisible spirits, demons, and celestial beings. We assume we've outgrown that mythology because, well, we have advanced radar arrays and smartphones.
Yeah.
But what if our hyper-advanced, strictly material lens is actually blinding us? What if the ancients, without access to a single telescope or radio dish, fundamentally understood the true spiritual nature of our universe far better than we do today?
It certainly makes you wonder. The next time you look up at a clear night sky, or, the next time a news alert flashes across your phone about a closed-door congressional UFO hearing, remember J.D. Vance's quote, "Where you see an alien, I might see an angel or a demon." It really just depends on which reality you think you're living in.
Well, that was a lot. Basically, the weirdest family road trip nobody asked for. But here's the thing, we don't have to panic when the world gets weird. We just need to stay awake, stay grounded, and be ready to give an answer for the hope we already have.
Maybe the real question isn't just what's out there, but whether the reality we trust has room for the one who made it.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Be sure and join us again for more rabbit trails and revelations.
Bye.